and a half or so ago, we were having dinner at my daughter's home, and this little guy is sitting at the table, and he looks at me and says, "Papa, what is the meaning of sophomoric?" I said, "What?" He said, "What is the meaning of sophomoric?" Just recently, he'd read about the tragedy of slavery and all of that in school, and he came back to his mother and he was in tears. He said, "I can't believe what was done in the past and people and so on." Then he looked at her and he said to her, "Mommy, I have a friend from another part of the world. Do you think he will have difficulty when he's growing up in a different culture?" And my daughter said to him, "Why do you ask that?" And this little kid looks at her and says, "Well, my philosophy is this." And he starts answering. But the most stunning thing he ever said was when my daughter Naomi, is a wee little gal, had lost her car keys and said, "I'm losing my mind, I can't find it." And so Jude comes right in front of her and looks at her and says, "Mommy, whatever you do, please don't ever lose your heart, because I'm in there. Don't ever lose your heart, because I am in there." I sometimes think about the cross and shut my eyes and try to see the cruel nails, the crown of thorns, and Jesus crucified for me. But even could I see him die, I would but see a little part of that great love which like a fire is always burning in his heart. He has you in his heart. He has me in his heart. And to these early disciples, they saw the finger of God in all of history and Christ as its central figure. The lead among them, Peter, did not want to go to Calvary. It cannot be, this cannot be. And ultimately, when he saw the purpose of what Calvary was all about, he was willing to pay with his own life for this gospel message. Ladies and gentlemen, they saw the finger of God in all of history and Christ as its central figure. If that is the case, can I make just one application, please? Just one application for this. Think of all that America is experiencing today. I look across this audience right now, and I see all the different colors of skin. I hear the different accents when I talk to you. America is changing. With our eyes wide open, we are watching the world come to America now. This is a unique moment in history where we do not even need for all of us to go to the other parts of the world, because the other parts of the world have come here. You have the ear of people who would never hear the gospel, but God has brought them here by design. I remember when I was in Lebanon some years ago, my friend Sammy Dagger is just a guy that tall, but he packs dynamite into every statement. He says he gives more energy in his good mornings than more people will do in an entire 40-minute talk. And I was there in the 70s with him, and then in the 80s, his car moves more by prayer than any engineering capacity under the hood. So I was sitting in his car and we were chugging along, and all of a sudden a group of Syrian soldiers put their arms up and stop us. And I said, "We're done. I'm finished. I ought never to have come here." And pretty soon they've surrounded the whole van with their machine guns, get us to lower our window down with the barrel of one on his side, the barrel of mine on the other. I said, "We've had it. I'm going to be buried in the Bekaa Valley out here." So Sammy is there, and they look at Sammy and they ask him if he has any explosives, any dynamite in the car. Sammy knows no fear. He said, "This van is full of dynamite." And then he puts his hand out, and there's a tarp over the van. He rummages around while I'm so dead scared at this point. And he's taking out a red New Testament, and he gives it to the Syrian soldier. He says, "This is the dynamite I'm carrying. It's not the kind that will hurt. I'd like every one of you to have one copy, please." They'd had enough of him. So they looked at me, and he looked at me and said, "Hindu," which is Arabic for Indian. At that point, I was willing to admit to being anything. I said, see. I said, yes, I'm an Indian. And then he stepped back, saluted, and said, Indira Gandhi Mubarak, which means give my greetings to Indira Gandhi. As if Indira Gandhi and I played marbles every day together. I said, I'll be happy to give your regards to Indira Gandhi. And so they waved us on. Sammy chugs along, stops. After a few yards, I said, Sammy, keep going. They're still in our rearview mirror. He said, no, my brother, I want to tell you something while you can still see them. He said, for all these years, I've been praying that I could go to Syria to preach the gospel, but they were blocking us. And then one day when 50,000 Syrian soldiers came into my country, I was so mad at God. I got on my knees, I was pounding on my bed, and I said to God, what are you doing to my land? What are you doing? 50,000 Syrian soldiers here in Lebanon. What are you doing? He said, and as I paused, I heard God's voice in my heart saying, Sammy, for all these years you've been praying that you could go to Syria, and Syria is not letting you come in, and now I'm sending 50,000 Syrians to you, and you're still complaining about it. If you go to church in Beirut or in Amman, Jordan, in the middle of the week, on a Wednesday night, you will not get a seat. It is packed with Syrians and Iraqis who fled from their countries and have come to these lands now, and they are being reached with the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is an amazing story that's taking place. The finger of God in all of history. Nothing is happening by accident, folks. Nothing. It's a sovereign God who is bringing this about. And as your church has celebrated 3 decades, the years ahead could be even greater than these years, but it will involve those from lands far away who are coming here, who you have the opportunity to reach, who would never have been reached in their land. Let me tell you something. The fastest growing church in the world today is in China. Do you know which is the second fastest growing church? That's what I've been told. When we were in Jordan, we were told by a whole group of Middle Eastern pastors, Iran is the second fastest growing church in the world. A nation that has been hostile in its leadership, and yet the young are coming in large numbers. Keep your eyes on the Middle East. Keep your eyes on Asia. What God is doing in those countries is going to change the future, and we had better be ready to see the power of the church from the Middle East and the power of the church from China. And as your church continues to do what God has called you to do, you will train some of them, and they will come here and enrich this congregation with their experience. The finger of God in all of history, Christ as its central figure. The second is how they transformed an arena of persecution and changed it into a platform of opportunity. How they transformed an arena of persecution and changed it into a platform of opportunity. God does not triumph in spite of the dark mystery of persecution. He triumphs through it. He doesn't triumph in spite of the dark mystery. He triumphs through it. Think of all the issues of pain, all the issues of suffering. I remember when I broke my back in the mid-'80s, and I was in the thick of my itinerant worldwide ministry. I have 2 distinct problems with which I live physically. One is a back that has been put back together by titanium rods from L3 to S1. 8-inch titanium rods with 4 clamps and 8 screws that literally hold me up after I seriously injured my back and had 2 surgeries. I remember sitting in my car someday with my head on the steering wheel saying, I can't do this anymore, Lord. I simply can't endure sitting in the plane for all these hours and feeling that pressure on that tailbone and on the spine. And once that nerve gets engaged, you never know, one wrong move and you could be face down on the floor. Any one of you who's gone through that knows exactly what that is like. And then the problem of 2 vocal ulcers. In 1972, a surgeon looked at my vocal cords and said, public speaking is not for you. You're not made for this. You better give it up. I was in my 20s at that time, mid-20s. And the next day I was doing my studies, and the chairman of the chancellor of the college there saw me walking, and he said, "You don't look very happy today." I said, "No, sir." He said, "What's the matter?" I said, "I just saw a voice specialist yesterday, and he told me public speaking is not for me. I better quit this." He said, "Come into my office." So I went and sat down, and this senior man, Dr. Beamer, looked at me and he said, "Ravi, God's got his hand upon you, and God's anointed you. The surgeon can tell you that maybe your vocal cords are not made for it, but God fashioned your vocal cords just as he fashioned Moses' mouth. He's fashioned yours. I'm going to send you to the best speech pathologist in this country. He's going to take a look at you, and then I'll start even believing it." That guy looked at my vocal ulcers and he said, "We can fix this. You can go for a long time in the rest of your life." 46 years I've been preaching through 70 countries, thousands of times, broken back, vocal ulcers, and God keeps doing it. But you know what it does? You know what it does? You wake up every morning and realize without his grace, you're not going to move a step that day. So every day I wake up, I ask him for strength to follow him, ask him for strength for that back and strength for this voice. And in 46 years, he has never let me down. Ladies and gentlemen, he has taught me how to depend upon him more and more. I am his child and his instrument. Please believe that as surely as you are. You are uniquely put together. The very word individual means you are indivisible. You come as a composite. You come as a whole unit. When I was in my mid-20s, I met this beautiful young gal in Canada. Her name was Margaret. We called her Margie. And on the day that I proposed to her, and we were married when I was 26 and she was 22, little did I dream what a critical decision that was going to be in my life. I just thought I was making a very wise decision. There was nothing wrong with my eyesight. I thought I was seeing a beautiful young gal. We were going to spend the rest of our lives together. It'll be all wonderful. I never dreamed of the cost she was going to have to pay for this calling. Think about it. I never dreamed of the cost she was going to have to pay for this, or my 3 kids, or now my grandkids. And I would never have made it through this without the support of a woman of God who, if I ever were to receive any crown, I would hand it over gladly to her because of the sacrifice she has made in enabling me to get to these places. But through these times, and through these deprivations, and through these weaknesses, what have I learned? Lo, I'm with you always, even unto the end of the age. That was David Livingstone's prayer, you know. Send me anywhere, only go with me. Lay any burden on me, only sustain me. Sever any ties, but the ties that bind me to your service and to your heart. He said, through it all, the words of Christ came to me. Lo, I'm with you always, even unto the end of the age. When he finally buried his wife, who had suffered much from this ailment that she contracted, he knelt by her grave and he prayed this prayer: "My Jesus, my King, my life, my all, I again consecrate my life to thee. I shall place no value in anything I possess or in anything I do, except in relation to thy kingdom and to thy service." He said, through it all, the words of Christ came to me. Lo, I'm with you always, even unto the end of the age. When David Livingstone finally died, he literally died on his knees. He was kneeling in prayer by his bedside, and 2 of his colleagues came and wanted to put him into bed because they believed his body was racked with pain. But seeing him in prayer, they left. 2 or 3 times they left, till finally they went and shook him by the shoulder. He was gone. He was already in the presence of the Lord, but he'd lived the way he died, the way he lived, on his knees before God. My dear friend, whatever your struggle today, whatever your pain, whatever your struggle and deprivation or agony, just remember, God is working not in spite of that. God is working through that to bring you